Good morning, garden lovers. We're looking here at my front border, which I continue to be proud of despite the heat. It's got lovely color. I am deadheading these marigolds every other day, and things are looking up. And I think I've told you before that, I love all my plants and I don't have favorites, but there are some that have been underwhelming. And so I wanted this morning to tell you about the top 4 disappointments in the garden. I hate to throw any of my flowers under the bus, but these flowers were so underwhelming that I wanted to warn you in case you were thinking of planting some of these in your garden. We'll start with the Nemsia. The Nemsia is, you can see right here, how beautiful he is. He just never really liked it in the garden. Now this might be user error. Maybe I gave it too much water. Maybe the sun did it in. I'm not really quite sure, but it never really ever lived up to its potential. It looks maybe a little bit like lobelia, but gets taller, as you can see. There's another one up here that I can show you that is also, here's one that's a big disappointment. This one here, the brown thing, that's also Nemsia. And here's some Nemsia right here. You can see it has only one bloom. I will show that to you right there. But this is what it's supposed to look like. Can you see? So, I put it in sort of midsummer when I was having my panic about the border and I thought everything was dying, and I thought, oh, I better put in some more flowers because things are really heading out. But it actually never really took. When I put it in, there were some blooms on it, but they immediately dropped, never really came back, and even those that didn't drop faded, so it never was much of a purple flower, but more of a white flower. Big disappointment. The second disappointment is the geranium. I bought a beautiful, lush, tri-colored geranium very early in the season, probably just after the quarantine. And you can see how it looks right now. This is the only bloom on it, which is a red one. It had a red and a pink and an orange bloom. Geraniums are ubiquitous here in California. They're super easy to grow. My mom grew them all the time. I have a really beautiful one in the backyard that I completely ignore. And I actually think that might be the problem. I spent too much time and energy on this. Maybe I overwatered it. I don't know. And I wouldn't discourage you from growing geraniums, of course. It would be like saying don't grow roses. It's just, he was a big disappointment. What can I say? Look at him. I'm going to stop watering him because I think that could be a problem, and just see if he likes drier soil better. The interesting thing about geraniums is that I think in climates other than zones 9 and 10, they overwinter inside. So I have never overwintered a geranium inside. I don't really grow them in pots, just in the ground here in California. And the other interesting thing about geraniums is that I think I told you about the Rudbeckia and how it was named after the mentor of Carl Linnaeus. Well, Carl Linnaeus also classified the geranium. So it's interesting that the geranium and the Rudbeckia are in the very same place here in my garden, and they were both classified by the same botanist. All right, disappointment number 3. This is a tree rose, a Floribunda tree rose, new for 2020, called Queen of Elegance. I did not choose this at the nursery. This was in one of my very first quarantine purchases, and I just spoke to the nursery person on the line. He described it to me. I thought it sounded lovely, and so it came to live with me in the garden. It has bloomed so little and so weakly that I do not recommend it. I think it's interesting that it's a brand new rose for this year. It's supposed to have a really strong scent and have large floribunda, many-petaled flowers, very, very dense flowers. But you can see here that I've got 0 flowers. I may have a few coming. But over the course of the summer, I can probably count on 1.5 hands the number of blooms that I've had. So maybe he's just having a little bit of transplant shock, but do not recommend. And my last would be the night sky petunia. Now don't get me wrong, this is a spectacular flower. You can see it's called the night sky because the petunias are purple with little white specks like stars, and then as they grow, they become more like, striped and spotted. Here's another one here. So interesting. But in general, this season, they have been nothing but a pain in the patootie. You can see in general that they are not blooming very well. They've been incredibly buggy. They've just been really susceptible to whatever it is that's eating them, and I have sprayed them multiple times. You can see the other petunias who are in the very same pot are doing much better, and they've gotten the exact same treatment. So again, it's not that I don't recommend these because they have a spectacular look, and if you can get them to grow well, more power to you. But in my garden, they have been a disappointment. So there you go. There are the top 4 disappointments in my garden this year. I hope you can gather some wisdom from that and make good decisions for your garden.